Here we are on location in Atlanta, Georgia, home of this year's Super Bowl.
That's right.
Yes, Super Bowl.
Quick Start School.
And yes, more importantly, we are here for the Quick Start Real Estate School. And this is Wednesday that we're filming Ask Ron. So the first question for this week's Ask Ron is from Scott in Michigan.
Hi, Scott.
And Scott says, "Hi, Ron. Two siblings are selling their recently deceased mother's free and clear home, which they claim to be co-trustees. As an example, the county record shows in 2011 the home was put in Jan Smith Living Trust, with owner as Jan Smith trustee. On the purchase and sales agreement, do I simply put Jan Smith Trust as seller and siblings will sign as trustees accordingly?"
If Jan Smith is the trustee, that's the only name that goes on the agreement as seller.
Okay.
Is that the question?
Yes. If so, do I need any sort of docs from them showing they have been assigned as co-trustees?
No. You worry about all that crap after you get the contract signed. Your attorney will tell you what you need to go from there. As far as the contract goes, you're the trustee. You're the only one that can sign it anyway.
Okay.
That's actually why we recommend you close with an attorney, guys, because in the beginning...
We don't recommend it, we insist on it.
Yeah.
Yes.
In the beginning, we didn't always do it that way, and you can get yourself in trouble.
Yeah,
We want to make
especially
sure
on
you
a deal
don't.
like this.
Yes.
Okay, so the second question is from Mary Ann Nunes in California.
Hey, I thought she left the country.
No.
Hi, Marianne.
Hi, Mary Ann. We hope to see you again soon.
Maybe we'll
She's-
see you at the summit.
The summit.
She says, "Ron, if for an example, I do a terms deal with a seller for purchase price of $530,000 and I find a tenant buyer with $40,000 down, then when the buyer is ready to cash out, they show proof to their lender that they put $40,000 down,
Yep.
but they don't qualify for an FHA loan and the lender needs 20% down,
Yep.
which would be about $106,000. Then the lender takes into consideration the $40,000 and the buyer will need to come up with another $66,000 for the rest of the down.
Correct.
Is that correct?"
That's correct.
Yes.
Correct, Mary Ann.
So
That was the question.
that's why, if the buyer wants to, they can give you extra money to apply toward their down payment while they're in the house. But I'm sure you're over the FHA limit, but yours is much higher in California than mine here. So you should know what that limit is.
Okay, and the second part to Mary Ann Nunes' question is whether I do an owner finance or a lease purchase with the seller and I have installed a tenant buyer, can the seller and myself both claim on our taxes the monthly payments received?
No.
Mary Ann, are you asking me if both of you can write off the same expense? If you're asking me that, you know the answer. You know the answer is no. Now, however, you're going to collect rent. That's income. You get to write off your payment, your interest portion of it. That's an expense. Now, your seller also gets to write off the payment she pays the bank as interest. So you do get a double write-off, but she's got to claim the income she gets from you as you've got to claim the income you get from your buyer. If that clarifies it.
Okay. Thank you, Mary Ann.
Basically, claim all your income that you get.
So the next question is from Zachary Morin.
Hi, Zachary.
He says, I am buying the property in a land trust. My keeper LLC is the beneficial interest and my utility LLC is the trustee.
Okay?
Which LLC do I list as additionally insured interest on the policy? Keeper or utility?
Who is the beneficiary again?
The keeper.
The keeper.
Okay. That should be the one on the policy, but you should ask your insurance company the answer to that question and let them make that choice for you. And you could just insure all of them. You could add all of them as additional insurers.
Okay, and then he asked, do you recommend insuring the mortgage amount or full replacement cost?
They're going to tell you the minimum you can insure it for based on the tables that they pull out. You're probably not going to be in charge of that. And honestly, it's up to them really.
Okay, so this next question is kind of long, and it's from, well, yes. It is from Mary and Eric in Pennsylvania. Mary and Eric. I thought it was Marie.
It's Marie.
Yeah, it's Marie. They wrote Mary here. Marie and Eric in Pennsylvania. Hi, guys. Hope you're doing well. Okay, so their question is, just received a phone call from one of our sellers. We are doing a sandwich lease purchase with her and have a lease option buyer in the house since May of 2017. She is about to file for bankruptcy and will have to include the house. Payments are current as of January 2019. The tenant pays us and we pay the mortgage company directly. What is the best course of action to take to save this deal and allow our tenant to stay in the home?
Who's filing bankruptcy? Seller or tenant?
Yeah, and they're lease purchasing from the seller, she's saying. Okay. And the seller is declaring bankruptcy.
The answer is you need to see your attorney to determine what to do next. If your tenant buyer actually comes to the table with money, your attorney will petition the trustee to allow it to be paid off and won't have any reason not to, because his job is to protect the creditors. Now, if the seller's getting any money, I can assure you they're going to latch onto that money, so the seller won't receive the money. In fact, they'd love to have that happen. But your attorney needs to answer that question. No one else. Your attorney.
Okay. So the final question for this week's Ask Ron is from Fernando Diaz in Connecticut.
Hi, Fernando.
And he has 3 parts to a question. I have a lease option agreement with seller. The home would appraise for $750,000 as we renovated the home. However, he bought 2 years ago and Zillow shows he bought it for $550,000. How to avoid losing potential tenant buyers that see that the owner wants to make $250,000?
What makes you think you're going to lose them? If somebody renovated the house, obviously that makes it worth a lot more. So I think you're making up stuff as you go. It's really what it's worth now, not what the seller paid for. It's none of anybody's business, honestly.
I will say this is an interesting point, and Zillow has changed our market quite a bit. And now people, it's much easier to see with a couple of clicks what people paid and when they bought the house. And it didn't used to be so easy.
Doesn't matter, though.
I know, but sometimes you will run into
I don't care.
that.
You overcome it by just telling them, A, it's none of your business. B, they renovated it. C, it's worth what it's worth now. And if that's necessary, get an appraisal on it. Show them. Anybody wants to argue that? Whack them.
The next part is the escrow company. This is a different question. He had 3 questions. The escrow company no longer handles New York and Connecticut. What are good ways to find and evaluate an escrow company?
You find and evaluate an attorney. And let them worry about all that crap. You don't care about an escrow company. You are closing with an attorney. And if you don't, I'm going to personally hunt you down and hurt you. Attorneys do real estate closings, not escrow companies. I don't know if you've been in my Quick Start class, but if you haven't, you better get there. And if you have, you better get back. Escrow companies don't represent you. Plus, you're probably going to have to buy title insurance. We don't buy title insurance on pretty houses. An attorney is cheaper than title insurance. Find an attorney. Case closed.
Okay, so the next question is still from Fernando.
Okay.
Seller is interested in lease with option to buy. I don't plan to stay in the middle. I have a signed lease option to buy with seller. When I get my tenant buyer, I have them sign a lease and purchase option agreement with seller. Then I have the... Okay.
You use the agreement on your Go Club site, the long one with a table of contents. That's the one you use to put the tenant buyer in the house, not the one you have signed with the seller. You're not assigning an agreement from the seller to the buyer because it's 2 totally different agreements. So when you get the lease option tenant buyer in the house, now you contact the seller and see if they are okay with you assigning your agreement with your buyer to them. And then let them take total control, and then you get a release from them, which is on Go Club site, and the buyer, and you're out. So we don't sign this contract from the seller to the buyer. I'll tell you why. If your buyer gives you a big chunk of money for an assignment fee, they cannot use that money as a down payment. The lender won't give them credit for it. So assignment fees don't go to down payments. Boy, will your buyer be pissed when they find that out.
Yeah.
Okay, but if you lease option it to your buyer and it's a deposit, an earnest money deposit, then they can use it when they go get a loan. So do it the correct way.
All right.
Quick start.
Now that's the last question for this week's Ask Ron, on location in Atlanta, Georgia.
Speaking of the quick start, Ron, we had a goal. Ron said that Brian and I have to get 11
Deals here.
deals here from the students that brought leads in.
Yep.
And so far, we are at 10.
Okay, so that means you're short.
One away. Got 2 more days.
Got 2 more days.
2 more days.
Okay, so you better get to work.
That's right.
So you better get to calling. What are you doing sitting here?
Guys, I can tell Ron has not eaten. So he is
We're going to go
feisty
eat right
tonight.
now.
Okay, you guys, I'll see you next week.
Yeah.
We'll be at
The summit.
Summit next week.
Yes.
I hope you're coming.
That's going to be
You're
exciting.
coming. Because, boy, we're going to give away 23 cars there.
No, tell them about our charity and what you're going to do.
What are you
They're
going
going
to
to make me ride the bull.
Yes, the mechanical bull. We're raising money for St.
That's
Jude's
right.
Children's Hospital.
All right, so anyway, we'll do it next week from the summit.
We'll
See you
see you
then.
at